Welcome back to the channel, my returning subscribers. I must say, if you're watching from Jamaica, it means you are a survivor and you have a lot to be thankful for in light of what took place on October 28th. For those of you who are coming over for the first time, I must say you have come to the right place because this is a place where we dig into the digital soil and reap real results. Now, I know a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed and stressed since the passage of Hurricane Melissa because their homes and livelihoods have been destroyed and many uncertainties including food shortages are looming on the horizon. But in the midst of the despair, I want you to dig deep and pull on the resilient spirit that resides inside of you. We are Jamaicans, we are known to be a resilient people. I just want to encourage you to take control of your food security, and you can start right there in what is left of your yard. Stick and stay to the end of this feature because today I'm going to give you some simple, low cost gardening ideas that every Jamaican home can implement, even if your space or soil is limited. First one I'd recommend is to invest in some fast growing and I'd say survival crops. So, one of the quickest ways to bounce back after such a devastating event is to plant fast growing vegetables like callaloo, pak choy, and lettuce because they take weeks, not months, to harvest. The good thing about this backyard or wherever you want to plant them in your yard idea is that even if the hurricane would have washed out your soil, you can grow them in containers like buckets, pots, or recycled containers. Just about any container that you can find around your space. You can get very creative. And I think I'll put up some of them on the screen so that you can, you know, get an idea as to what I am talking about. These crops can put food on your table quickly, as I've mentioned before, and they are easy for beginners. And this approach is also a great way to cut cost and to enable us to eat healthy. In most instances, some of the things that we purchase, whether in the local market or in the supermarket, are grown with fertilizers and also a lot of pesticides. And most times we buy things and we don't even realize that there are pesticide residues on them. So I would encourage as much of us to take the initiative to start growing things by ourselves because that way we know exactly what we are putting in our bodies. As you go forward with the recovery process of your gardening, you want to focus on replanting Jamaican staples. So, for the long term food security, you want to make sure that you're including hardy crops like sweet potatoes, cassava, yam, cocoa, dasheen, etc. Interestingly, some of these can be grown in containers as well. And these crops will provide the carbohydrates that you need because you can't get up and eat rice and flour every day. And while you're focusing on these, it's also important that you include long-term vegetables like carrots, turnip, etc. because you need to have a steady supply of vegetables in order to meet your daily dietary requirements. The next option is to do container gardening. I made reference to it earlier, but I think it's necessary for me to speak a little more on the topic. So you can grow food in anything from your 5 gallon buckets to potting bags or even crack tubs. And in instances, you can make raised beds All you need to do for the containers is to make some drainage holes in the bottom or at the sides, fill them up with soil mixed with compost or any organic material that is available to you, and plant away. One of the greatest things about container gardening is that it gives you control over your growing environment. So I think this is a option that you should give thought to. As you go forward with the recovery process, your garden would be incomplete without your herbs and your medicinal plants. As Jamaicans, we rely heavily on these plants for flavoring and, as said, medicinal uses. Most times we run to the plants before we go to the pharmacy or go to the doctor. Some people like to self medicate. I wouldn't encourage that though. So, and it's very interesting that some of these plants can handle very harsh conditions, so they can be easily grown around your home. When I was growing up, we had so many medicinal herbs. Some of them have died out because of the use of herbicides and for other reasons, changing use of the land and all of that. But, you know, they play a very important role in our life. And so I think it's very important that thought be given to these as well. Vertical gardening, I'm sure you never considered this one. So even if you have limited space, you can grow a lot by going vertical. And if you notice, even in some, if I should shift a little bit and talk about buildings in a city, most times when there's a lack of space, what they do, they tend to go a story or two above the ground. So the same thing when it comes down to your gardening experience. So you have climbing crops like beans, cucumbers, chocho, and pumpkin. And these can do well on fences, trellises, or even simple wooden stakes. So just as how the persons in the town centers save on space by going vertical, you can save on space. And by doing so, you'll also protect your plants from pests because when you have your plants growing on, say, trellis or pergola, for example, you can apply your pesticide at the base of the pergola as well as at the base of the plant, and then, you know, the pests won't be able to access the plant. Slugs and snails, for example, they tend to come out in the nights after, you get a little rain in the evening, for example. And I say this because of the many experiences that I've had. Regenerating food from scraps is also another interesting way to go forward, in the recovery process. You'd be surprised to know how much you can regrow from what's already in your kitchen. So your tomato seeds, sweet pepper seeds, your scotch bonnet seeds, especially the ones that are really hot, you don't want to throw away those. In times like these, nothing should go to waste. So you're gonna put them to dry and then you're going to sow them and transplant them in your little spaces. One of the most fulfilling thing, is to actually go out and pick things that you have actually started out on your own. So you didn't go to the plant nursery, for example, and buy the seedlings, but you actually sow those seeds and watch them move through the different stages right up to the point where you're able to harvest something from them. Rainwater harvesting. As you know, plants cannot survive without water. So one of the first thing I would recommend gardeners to invest in is a rainwater harvesting system. And it doesn't have to be very costly at the start. All you need is a few of those blue barrels, the ones that you normally ship things in. And with a little creativity, you can have your watering system going until you can upgrade it. Capturing your own water is essential for the sustenance of your garden because water is always an ongoing problem, especially in some places during the drier parts of the year. And you can do some mulching because it will also help to cut down on the usage of water. You need to consider composting. As you know, after a hurricane, we are surrounded by a lot of organic debris. In other words, materials that can be easily broken down and converted into nutrients that could help to build the soil in your garden and boost your crop production. So you have your leaves, food scraps, and plant trimmings. You just need to put them together and turn them over, add a little soil to it, and over time, you'll end up with a rich organic material that can be used to amend the soil. So there's no need for you to go out and buy expensive fertilizers when you have a valuable resource to your disposal. You need to give thought to planting perennial food trees. For long-term resilience, plant crops that keep giving without much work. You need to make an effort to plant or replant your favorite fruit trees that were blown down by the storm or get some damage. And you may want to, you know, plant another one just to make sure that if that one don't make it, then at least you have one coming up. Example, your guava, your soursop, banana, coconut, oranges, and mangoes. And if you love breadfruit and ackee like me, you want to make sure that you have that as well. In my closing, I must say Hurricane Melissa may have rocked the island to her core, but it didn't take her roots and the resilience of our people. Let me also hasten to encourage each citizen who has the capability to plant a little food to do so because it can make a difference over time. For one, it will definitely reduce pressure on household budgets and the need for imports, which could cause prices to go up. Please let me know in the comment section what you have done since the passage of the hurricane or what you'll be doing going forward to improve your food security. And while you're doing that, please hit the like button, share the feature, and subscribe because these actions will help the channel to grow. Thanks for viewing and all the best as you take the necessary steps to bounce back stronger from this catastrophe.